So we are planning to have the software update for the Alpha 1 and the Alpha 7S Mark III next spring.
Okay, it has finally happened. Sony has announced a firmware update for my a7S III and also the A1. This is exciting news, and I've been waiting for this for a long time. Here's a picture of me waiting. Yes, and I've been a naysayer saying that it is not coming at all, but it looks like it's here. Well, not actually here, it's coming in March. Well, it actually says March or later, so it's coming sometime, but at least Sony is now saying it's coming. In this video, I'm going to talk about what those updates are and what I think this means for the camera industry. And then I'm going to tell you at the end whether I think this changes my prediction as to whether or not Sony is abandoning the A7S line altogether. So what has Sony announced? In the middle of the presentation on the A9 III, Sony put up this slide and told us exactly what we can expect in March or later. My guess is it will at least be out before April of 2024 for NAB, because Sony doesn't want to listen to people like me begging them and asking them where is the firmware update. Yeah, I might have done that a few times. So what has Sony promised? Well, they've promised focus breathing compensation and DCI 4K at 24p. Let's start with focus breathing compensation. Poor focus breathing in a lens is where the frame actually moves as it focuses for something close, like this, and then focuses for something far away, like this. And you'll see the edges actually move. Now with focus breathing compensation turned on, there is a slight crop, but look what happens. We can focus in on something close, and then when we focus on something further away, well, the edges don't move. That's pretty fantastic. The other feature that the A7S III is getting that the FX3 had a year ago is DCI 4K at 24p instead of 23.97. I'm sure there's someone out there celebrating that right now. I'm not one of those, but if you are, let me know in the comments and let me know why. Now, sadly, the A7S III is not promised to have all of the upgrades that the FX3 got last year, even though those two cameras have the same sensor and practically the same menu when they were first released. Sony is clearly adding more to the FX3 than the A7S III, and this update still confirms that. But there is a glimmer of hope. There is a section in the slide that says these will be the updates and more. So I guess it's possible that we'll get anamorphic D-squeeze and Cine EI in the A7S, but it doesn't look likely. The more probably refers to something we don't really want, like focus mapping, but you know, it would be nice to have. Sure, we'll take it, but who knows, we may not even get that, even though we don't really want it. But if you're liking this video, please hit the like button, and if you're not, well, what are you still doing here? Well, as excited as I am to see Sony update the A7S III, I'm still not convinced that Sony is dedicated to the A7S line. I'm not sure there'll be an A7S IV. Now, it's possible that they'll come out with something called an A7S IV, but is it really going to be as good as an FX3 Mark II, for example? Because I think Sony is going to move videographers to an FX line, or at least to a camera that has a bigger body and a fan so it can accommodate all the features that we really want. And what are those features? Well, we want an open gate. We want neutral density filters built in. We want 6K, for example, and maybe even more slow motion. These are the types of things we want. And now Sony has given us something else that we never thought we could have, but now we want it really bad, and that's a global shutter.
But the 9 Mark III creates a new era of cameras. We made the impossible possible. For so many years, people said that a global shutter camera is impossible. Global shutter sensor is impossible. But the Alpha 9 III took the impossible and made it ridiculous.
The announcement of the A9 III has set a new bar for video. Just the way 10-bit did, 422, S-Log3, those types of things now become a standard for all great video cameras. And global shutter now is now on the list. So the question remains, can they give us what we want in an A7S IV, or is that going to have to be in a beefier body of an FX series? Heat is the real problem in these small cameras, and I think Sony is starting to hit a limit You can tell because a lot of the cameras that they're shooting are repurposed A7 IVs or A7 S3s or A7 R5s using that same chip and putting them in a smaller camera. But all of those, the EV line and the C line, those cameras tend to overheat, and you really can't trust them to put them on a tripod somewhere and have them shoot your event for a couple hours and be able to do a multicam shoot on it later, because they may not be actually recording. Now, those cameras are great if you're just going to pick something up a little here and a little there, and a lot of people do shoot that way, but we need a camera that is professional that can actually not overheat. That's why my money is on the FX3 Mark II, because that's a camera that can handle new features. Well, that's my opinion. Let me know what your opinion is down in the comments. If I'm right, I'll have a video right over here gloating about how I told you so. If I'm wrong, well, I'll admit that right over here. In the meantime, you can watch this video that YouTube thinks that you'll really enjoy. Hey, thanks for stopping by.